What's up, hybrids? Welcome back to another episode of the Fandom Hybrid Podcast. This is Hanako, and today I am joined by a very special guest. Most podcast listeners will know her as the person that Anthony lives with, to whom he's related by marriage. We know her as Michele, and she will be joining me to talk about the upcoming season of Outlander. Welcome, Michele.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. And you said this is your first time recording a podcast.
First time recording a podcast.
But you're a teacher. You've dealt with Zoom, yes. and wrangling kids. So this should be a cakewalk for you.
Yeah.
It should be easy. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about Outlander. The new season finally comes back on March 6th, which is next Sunday. We have been in Droughtlander now for 656 days. This is the longest hiatus between seasons, and we know a lot of that had to do with COVID. This season is going to be very short. They're only giving us 7 episodes, but then we'll get an extended season for the following season. I think the next season is supposed to be like 17 episodes. We usually get around 10. 10 or 12. 10 or 12. I think we started when the show first started. I think we got 13 episodes for the first 2 seasons. And then it kind of dwindled down to where it's now like a 10 episode season. So we're just going to talk about Outlander just a little bit because the last time the show aired, this podcast wasn't even in existence. So that's how long it
doesn't even seem that long, I guess, because I can just click on stars and keep watching it over and over again. Yes. It doesn't seem that long, but I guess so.
It has been a long time, a very long time. We've been waiting. But so we're just going to talk a little bit about Outlander, about our love for the show and how we got into it. Just kind of an intro to also get the listeners used to Michele so that once we start talking about the show, we can just get a move on. So how did you get into the show, or how did you get into the stories in general? And this could be book or the show.
Well, it started with the show. So I can actually tell you the exact date that I actually start watching season 1. So I've seen the previews for season 1. I'm like, okay, that looks kind of interesting. So I just remember it was actually 2016 Mother's Day. Mm-hmm. And Anthony and Bailey went to go visit his mom. And my mom and sister was off at a wedding. So I'm like, okay, I have nothing to do. So I'm just going to watch some shows. And then I saw that Starz was having a free weekend. I said, okay, this is the time that I should start this show, Outlander. I love romance and I love time travel. So let's get into it. That first episode, I was hooked. I mean, I stayed in that bed and watched the whole entire season and started on season 2. Because at that point, season 2 had a few episodes that had already aired.
Okay.
And one episode was coming on that night. So I binge watched season 1.
Okay.
Fell in love.
You sound a little bit like me. I can't remember the exact date, but I do remember it was actually the day before the season 2 finale aired.
Okay.
I was sitting at home by myself. Actually, no, the kids were here, but they were like upstairs doing their own thing. I was cleaning up downstairs, and Starz actually had a marathon of the whole first 2 seasons that weekend. So it's been on my radar forever. Like, I've had the books forever and just never had a chance to pick up and read them. And when the show came on, I was like, oh, I want to watch this, and just never got around to it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start watching this and just see a couple of episodes and, see how it is. I started watching episode 1, kind of like you. I fell in love. In between cleaning up and sitting on the couch, I binge watched all of season 1, and I think maybe a couple of episodes of season 2, all in one go. So when I went to bed, it was like maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. I slept for a few hours. I got up. I watched the rest of season 2, and I finished about 15 minutes before the finale premiered.
Wow.
Then as I was watching the finale, my younger daughter is coming down the stairs, and she's just looking at the TV, and she'll sit there and say, well, what's going on here? And she'll ask questions, and she'll leave, and she'll come back. And I forgot it was one particular part she came downstairs for, because season 2, was the Battle of Culloden.
Mm-hmm.
And after the episode aired, like she sat down and watched the last 15 minutes with me. And after the episode aired, she said, okay, I need you to start that over. So I literally started my second rewatch that same night and have just been hooked ever since. So what was it about the show that drew you to it?
I really want to say it was the relationship between Jamie and Claire.
Okay.
And also I love time travel, but it's not time travel. So it's time travel, but not the time travel. But I'm going to tell you that I watch every romance that has time travel, like About Time, Time Traveler's Wife, The Lake House. And some people will know that. I'm
going to laugh because, Anthony has this thing about time travel.
He does. And I understand that dealing with sci-fi, the time travel in that can get a little icky, but in the romance, you just got to go with it.
Right. Exactly.
You just have to kind of go with it. So you go with it here. And I just like also the background and history that is actually historical facts in there too. And just their relationship and the characters.
Right.
That just kind of like pulled me. And I have a little secret that I never admit to anyone. So after I watched the first season on that one day, I went to Google and I didn't look up all the books and kind of got an idea of how the story was going to go.
Ah, okay. So you probably know more than I do at this point, because I've read books 1 through 6. I stopped in the middle of 7 because I got a little bored. Like there's this part where they're traveling over the water and I even forget where they're going, but they're on this ship. And it's kind of like the whole, you've heard us talk about it before, the walking through the woods type. It's like that in this book. And I just got to a point where I was like, I can't do this. And I haven't picked it up since.
Okay.
But I know a little bit of the things that happen in the subsequent books. And I know she just came out with her 9th book back in December. I don't know anything about that story. Don't want to know anything about it. Because at this point, I feel like, the way it is when I'm watching adaptations from page to screen, if I didn't read the books first and I start out with the show or the movie, then I'll finish that first before I go to the books, because I don't want the books to taint my view of the show and be like, oh, they forgot this and they didn't do that. So it's a little bit easier since I started with the show first, to kind of read up until this point. And then that way I can make sure I'm not getting ahead of myself, or I just don't build up expectations that they may not be able to meet. Because again, they only give us 10 episodes for the most part. These books are huge.
Yes, they are.
They are so huge.
I only looked up 3 books, so I'm not ahead. So that evening, I just looked up 3 books up until like give me some idea about season 2 and some information. And when I looked it up, it was general information, so I wasn't getting like in-depth stories.
Oh, so you have no idea what's about to
happen. I have no idea. Like when we go to Dragon Con and I sit in the panels, and I have sat in panels where they said, okay, we're going to discuss the book. It's still not the same because you're giving me just a couple of glimpses. However, I'm starting to read book 1, and what I found myself doing, which is causing me to take a long time reading this book, is that I'm reading like a chapter and then I go back and I turn on the episode and then I start comparing. And I need to stop that.
Yes,
I need to just read the whole entire book and then go back and look at the season, not episode by episode. I'm like, oh, okay, that was different from the book. I can't do that anymore.
You will drive yourself nuts.
I have. It's taken 2 weeks to get through a couple of chapters because I'm going back and forth.
Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself. Just go through the first book, and then after you finish reading the book, then go back and look at the show. Because I will say this is one of the shows that they stay pretty true to the books for the most part. Of course, whenever you do an adaptation, there are some things they're going to change because it translates differently on screen if they try to do it the way the book is, or for time purposes or filming purposes or whatever. But they stay pretty true to the book, and it's very enjoyable. There are some things that that they leave out. But I think the core, especially those first two seasons, like the first two seasons, you have all of the stuff back and forth with Black Jack Randall.
Yes.
Those, whether you read that in the book or whether you watch it in the show, is going to be hard to get through. It's going to be emotional, but they nailed it. Like those first two seasons, even though I love what they've done with the subsequent seasons, you can't get past those first two seasons. Those first two seasons, like, are so emotional and gut-wrenching and hard to watch.
It really is.
But they're so brilliantly acted.
And the ones who've seen it, like, especially towards the end of season 1, I mean, at one point, when I first watched that day, I was like, okay, do I need to turn this off? Like, I felt like I was in the room with them and I need to turn around. I don't need to see this.
Right.
Do I need to go get help? I mean, it really pulls you in.
It does.
And that's how you connect to these characters. And that's why I'm still here with Outlander and loving it.
Yeah.
So that was season 1 and season 2. Whew.
I know. And we've gone through so much since then. But this season, I think, is going to be interesting to see how they do the 7 episodes, because what they did last season, they took some of, we're in what, season 5? They took some of book 5 and some of book 6.
Okay.
And they pulled some of that into season 5. And I think some of the story from from book 5, they're pulling into this next season. So it's going to kind of
back and forth.
Back and forth. But like all of the stuff that happened with Claire at the end of last season, that didn't happen until the next book. They kind of brought that forward, I guess, to go ahead and close out that whole storyline with the Browns. But that situation, Claire's rape and how she deals with it, it's very different from the way that it's described in the book. Like in the show, thankfully they don't show us her, getting raped, because, we've all agreed we've seen enough of that on TV. So what they did was they had her kind of going into her mind during the instances where that happened, and she was envisioning herself in the future with her family, with everybody, with Jamie. That doesn't happen in the books. So that was a very nice departure from the story, just to kind of see visually how Claire deals with that trauma while it's happening. I want
to say one thing about that. I was actually surprised. Well, I mean, since I haven't read the books, I was actually surprised that it would happen. I always thought that it wouldn't happen to her, because it happened a lot in the show. It happened to other characters. So when it did, I mean, I was devastated, because I'm like, she has survived so much. And I was thinking, okay, I mean, she has made it through almost at certain points. She was almost, but she made it through. She survived. And I mean, it was actually devastating to me, because I didn't think this would ever happen to Claire. But I like what she said afterwards. She was like, I survived losing 2 husbands. I survived the war. I survived this, and I will survive this. This will not take me.
Right.
So
it was.
I'll start crying in a minute, but yes,
it was heartbreaking. And reading it in the books, it was a little bit more, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the first person who raped her, it wasn't anything, I don't think, that was planned. It just kind of sort of happened. It's like he was using her for comfort, and then it was one of those things where that frenzy starts, and he was like, okay. And he's apologizing to her the whole time, because he's thinking about his dead wife or something like that. So it was one of those really weird things. It's like, this guy is apologizing. He doesn't want to do this, but he's doing it. And then it just kind of starts a trickle effect, and it just gets worse and worse. And it was just like, that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to read in a book. And I wondered how they were going to do that on screen and do it in a way that wasn't exploitative, because I know a lot of people, like, we're both Game of Thrones fans. Like, when all of that happens in Game of Thrones, there were a lot of people who were like, okay, you know what? we've seen this one too many times. We don't need to see. Yeah. So I wondered how they were going to do it in a way that respected the story that was being told, but not exploited as well. And I think they did a really good job of that. But we don't need to see that anymore.
No.
I mean, and the sad thing is, it's the 1700s. Unfortunately, those types of things, are happening. Yeah, because men don't respect women in that time, and that's just one of those things that happens. But that's okay, because those guys got what was coming to them.
Yes, killed them all. Killed them all.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, even the way that he said it, when you read it in the books, he captures that emotion perfectly. And it was just like, you don't want to root for people to die, but you're like, yes, kill all of them, kill them all. But so this season we have the addition of the Christie family. And I don't know if you know much about them and how they play into this story. This is going to be very interesting.
Okay, because that was the question I had. My first question was for season 6. What book does that correlate with? But you said it's going to be between 5 and 6.
Yes, I believe that one is a Breath of Snow and Ashes, or an Echo in the Bone. It's one of those two.
Okay.
I want to say it might. No, Echo in the Bone is book 7, I think. So I think it's a Breath of Snow and Ashes.
So are we done with the Browns?
I would think so, because I believe they were all killed.
Except at the end of they were, but then at the end, Jamie brought the brother the body, and he said, "Okay, later. I'll get you later. Thank you for bringing his body to us, but I'll see you later."
I don't remember.
So then I was like, okay,
now I gotta go back and read.
Maybe the Browns that brother will be in season 6 to revenge his brother's death, but
he don't want that smoke.
I know. I'm like, they killed the entire men that went with his brother to capture Claire. So I'm figuring you may just want to leave this alone.
Just
he
leave
came
it alone.
Respectfully to you.
Just leave it alone.
Gave you the body and just leave it be. So I'm just
because
wondering.
Jamie lit the cross and everybody was like, "Oh, we're going to war." He was like, "No, they took my wife." Everybody's like, "Okay, let's ride." Okay.
Yes.
When somebody can command that kind of loyalty, just don't mess with them. Just leave Jamie and Claire alone. You know what? Your brother did what he did. His men did what they did to Claire, which I don't know why y'all would think that was okay, but okay, y'all all got killed in a very, very horrible way. Just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. We don't need. I don't need to see any of the Browns ever again. Just leave that alone. Because I'm telling you, the Christies they are going to bring enough drama, girl. So you have Tom Christie, who is the father. You have Alan and you have Malva, who are his daughter and son. Tom was actually in prison, Artsmere, with Jamie. So then they know each other from Artsmere. Okay. The thing about Tom is he is one of those overly religious people. So I don't know if you've seen the trailers, but
I have, and I rewatched it before this. So yes, they do have him in there. They're building a church. You can see that from the trailer, and you can see there's some, tension there between them when they were talking about, how to respect me on,
right, like in Fraser's Ridge, my word goes.
Word is
like not over the word of God. I'm like, like, Tom, how did that work out for you? But again, I'm not going to say anything since you haven't seen it, but it's going to be interesting to see how they play the dynamics with this family and all the chaos they caused in the books. Because when I tell you, it was a lot. It was a lot.
Now we see in the trailer a new woman. Is that the daughter?
Yes.
She has dark long hair.
That's Malva. And it's going to be interesting to see how they put her in this story, because in the books, she is actually Claire's apprentice and not Marcelly.
Okay.
So how they're going to introduce her in the story and put her in the story, maybe because of everything that happened with the attack. Marsley was hurt during the attack, and of course she gave birth at the end of last season, so maybe that is her moment where she says, okay, I can't do this anymore, or maybe she has to take care of the baby.
She's on maternity leave.
There you go. So they may
Claire
bring
needs some
Nala
help
in that way. Yeah.
That could be the way to get her in.
Yeah, but that's gonna be interesting. Because when I say they cause a lot, I'll put it like this: they're not going to wrap up that Christy storyline, or they're not going to, we only have 7 episodes this season. Yeah, that all of that drama and everything that they bring, that's going to carry over into the next season. I guarantee it.
It has to, because you also have to deal with the revolution and where they fall with the revolution. So you can't have that family and the revolution and tie everything up. No, that's not going to happen.
It's a lot. It's a lot. The other interesting thing that we will have to deal with that they have hinted at is Fergus this season. Now, Fergus is one of my absolute favorite characters. That's book, that's screen, whatever. Young Fergus, older Fergus. I love Fergus. He's one of my favorite characters. In these books, particularly book 6, Fergus goes through some emotional stuff. Okay. And there's a lot of stuff that's going on. I don't know if they're bringing that into this season, but in one of the one of their children ends up with what I believe is Down syndrome or he has dwarfism.
Okay.
And that causes a little bit of not necessarily friction between him and Marsley, but it's just one of those things where Fergus kind of takes it to heart because, of course, when someone's born different, especially in those times, back then they would counsel the parents to kill the child or leave them out for the animals to take them or, that kind of thing. But of course, Marsley is not about to do that. She's like, this is my child regardless. But that's something that Fergus has to deal with in the books. He's already dealing with feeling like he's less than because he only has one hand. He can't contribute in the same way that other men on the ridge can. And then now they have a child with dwarfism. And it's just one of those things where we see Fergus go through a lot of emotional and mental difficulties. And they've been suggesting that that's going to come in this season. And I would love to see it. But at the same time, I'm not ready to be crying like that.
No.
Because Fergus is my baby. That's one of my absolute favorite characters. So, but I'm excited to see him get more screen time.
I was going to say, I'm excited to see that because he really hasn't had any.
Not
for
much.
A while. So.
I think last season he had a little bit more, but that's been one of those things where I was like, Fergus is supposed to be he was the first child. If you really think about it, he was Jamie and Claire's first child. And there are certain things about Fergus that does bother me, like the fact that he still calls them my lord and my lady. I'm like, why is he still calling them? That has always bothered me.
And rewatching it when he was saying that he will go and kill for her, he did. He said, I will kill my lady. Oh, okay, just say I will kill. Don't even worry about saying my lady.
Yeah, he will. That's his mama and his daddy, and he's gonna do what he can for them.
Right.
Which is why I don't understand. Right.
You could just say, like Marcy said, Ma, you hurt my ma.
Yeah. Yes. So that's one of the things that's always bothered me, but it's cool. As long as we get to see more Fergus, I'm good with it. Now, the other rumor I heard is that we are getting, and I don't know if this is the case, I heard that we may be getting Bonnie Prince Charlie back. Mark me. I don't know if this is true. I don't know if it's going to be flashbacks or if we're seeing him because, he kind of got exiled after Culloden and all of that stuff happened.
Yes.
So I don't know, but I saw that somewhere online that we were getting him. I was like, oh my God, if I have to hear "mark me" one more time, like it got to a point where I felt like we could have a drinking game with those two words when he was on season 2. It was just like, "Mark me." Oh, okay. Because he said it so much, but he was a hilarious character.
Now, if so, was he on the red carpet this past weekend?
Yes, it was this past weekend.
Okay. I didn't want to look at anything on Facebook or anything on that.
I don't think he was there. The only person that I saw that was surprising to me was Stephen Cree. He plays Big Ian. You know, Jamie's brother-in-law. He was on the red carpet, and I knew because he's in Discovery of Witches as Gallowglass.
Right.
So he still has the hair and the beard. So I'm looking at the red carpet and I see this guy I think he had on a red shirt and a leather jacket. And I was watching it on my phone at lunch. And I'm just looking. I was like, wait, is that Stephen? I was like, wait, why is he at the, like, I'm sitting here like, okay, are we getting Big Ian back? Like, are we going back to Scotland?
All puzzled, like, how would that be?
Because I don't, if I remember correctly from the books, and it's probably been about 2.5 years since I've read one of the books, or since I last read the book. I don't recall them. I don't think at that point that I have been up to, they've not gone back to Scotland. Like, I think there's been some letters back and forth, but nothing that would indicate that we would be seeing Ian. So maybe he was just there to support, you just finished
Discovery of Witches.
Right.
So maybe he was there to support, but I don't know. Can we have he travels? No, he took a little trip to tell Jamie about his sister. I don't know. How would you even fit that in? And if it's not even in the books,
I'm thinking if we're talking
flashback,
that's what I'm thinking. Especially if they're talking about bringing Bonnie Prince Charlie back in, like it has to be flashbacks to like maybe right before Culloden or right after Culloden, something like that. Especially since they're bringing in Tom Christie, we know that he was in prison with Jamie after Culloden, so that has to that will tie into the story.
Tie in somehow. Yes.
Either way it goes, Stephen Cree on my screen. I'm happy. I will be happy.
I'll enjoy that too.
It would be a pleasant surprise too, because nobody would be thinking that was coming.
No, not at all. That's why I didn't really want to watch the red carpet, because you will see someone like, wait a second, you haven't been in this show in a long time, or who could you be playing? So
right. But you have to watch, you have to at least look at the pictures, because when I tell you they were all dressed to the nines.
Oh, I've seen some of those pictures.
Good. Yes. And even Katrina, she wasn't there because, she's a new mother. She had a baby last year, and she, decided that she was going to do it virtually because, safety and, thinking about her child first, which is understandable. But even for her being virtual, not on the red carpet, when I tell you that woman was serving some looks, I was like, I love this. They just look so good, but you have to see them. And the interviews are so funny because I like seeing them interact outside of the show, because you can kind of see the chemistry with all of them, even in real life. And that translates very well on screen. The other interesting part of the story to keep your eye on are the Beardsley twins, because them and oh my God, Lizzie.
Yes.
Yeah, that becomes a very interesting story in the books. And I have a feeling they're going to bring that to light on the show.
Season 6?
Yeah.
Let's see. That's a lot of things to bring to us in season 6, only in 7 episodes. Are they super episodes or just a regular size episode?
I don't know. They might. I think we're gonna have to look that up. We'll have to look that up and figure that out. I mean, at this point, yeah, you're right. It kind of, maybe not too much over an hour, but they've got to give us at least a full hour, because I think in the past, most of the episodes have been like 45, 50 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So they got to give us
a lot. Yeah, that's a lot too. It's a lot.
It's quite a bit.
The Christies, you have the Revolution, some old characters, new characters, so maybe love triangle or extra.
And then I would expect Claire is still dealing with PTSD, because we don't know exactly where the story is going to pick up yet. I do know that at the premiere last week, people who had virtual tickets, who purchased virtual tickets, they were able to see, I think, the first episode. But luckily, I haven't seen any spoilers, which is good. So we'll just have to wait and see about that. But yeah, they've got a lot to fit in there. And then I think the other interesting thing is the fact that Brianna and Roger are still in the 1700s, because in the books, they actually did go back to the future. They did? But at that point, at this point in the story, in the books, they've also had a second child. They've had a daughter. And the daughter has, she has a heart condition that there's really no fix for in this day and age in the 1700s. So that's one of the determining factors for them going back to the future, because they have to, in order to get
medical help.
Yeah, in order to get her the medical help that she needs. And then there's a whole other story that takes place, because in the books, when they go back to the future, Brianna and Roger actually take over the ruins of Lallybroch, and they work on getting it fixed up. And there's like this whole thing with the kids where there's somebody that they keep seeing. And I don't know, I haven't gotten that far in the story yet to tell if it was a ghost or if it was somebody actually threatening them, but it's a lot. And I don't know if they're going to do that in this story, because we haven't seen Brianna with another baby. Obviously they're still in the 1700s, so they may be reworking that part of the story, or they may get to it
later
next season.
The next season, pushing it.
Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot that they have to tackle, and like I said, these books are mammoth. So and obviously,
I wonder how much longer do you think this is going to go?
As far as the show, I'm hoping they will stick with it for as long as the books are. But like I said, she just released book 9 in December. And I think it had been several years between book 8 and book 9. And so she's working on book 10 now. But if it goes the way that book 9 went, it may be another 5-6 years before we even get book 10.
Right. Because it was 2014 when Written in My Own Heart's Blood came out.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then 2020 for Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone.
So,
and is the next book her last book?
Yes.
For this story? Okay.
Yes.
Which we should get. Says. We should get the ghost from season 1. Correct.
Yes.
Jamie's ghost. Okay.
Yes. She says she's going to explain that in the 10th book. So that means at that point, Claire and Jamie's story is probably coming to an end, which I'm not, like a finite end. I'm not sure I'm ready for that yet. I know at some point they have to die, but
yes. And isn't there supposed to be a house fire? Help me remember that. There's a house fire.
I believe that will either come in this season or next season.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had question in my notes. House fire.
Yes. Supposedly
the house is built and it's beautiful. So next will be a house fire.
Yes. So in the books, the reason why Brianna ended up coming back to the past, or ended up going to the past, is because she came across a newspaper article that told of the deaths of her parents in a house fire. And at the time that she found the newspaper article, I think it was only like within 2 years that they were going to be dead. So she decided to go to the past to warn them about the house fire and to try to, have them take precautions, don't do this, don't do that. And then she ends up staying. Now, one thing about this show in regards to the time travel, and we saw this in season 2, you can do whatever it is that you think you can do to try to change the outcome. But history is set.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you change certain things are still going to happen. Now, I will say this. The house fire thing in the newspaper article, it's going to take an interesting turn if they do it the way that it was done in the books.
Okay.
So you'll be surprised, and it'll be one of those things like, oh, wait, so how did it? Yeah, it's going to be interesting connecting those dots. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil that. So I'm just going to say that that's an interesting story to be told. So, yeah. Oh, is there anything that we need, anything else we need to discuss? Anything else you want to talk about? Like, it's been like one of the reasons why I started this podcast was because I needed a space to talk about certain shows with people that I could, because the other podcast that I was doing doesn't cover some of the shows because they focus mostly on sci-fi. My interest mostly lie in fantasy. So Outlander is actually one of the reasons why I started this show. Like, I need an outlet so that I can talk about this other than at Dragon Con. And then we went into a damn 2-year hiatus. I was like, you guys are defeating the purpose. But it's here.
But
now.
it's here. It's here.
Yes.
First episode, March 6th. It's here. It's here.
We have a week.
Yes. The person that I live with, whom I'm related to by marriage, asked me, what am I looking forward to? And I told him I'm not looking forward to anything because I know it's going to be a lot of trials and tribulations that they got to go through. And I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for my box of tissues. I'm not ready to be angry. I'm not ready to start throwing things at the television. I'm not ready, but I am ready. I'm just in between.
I feel you. I'm the same way. I'm like, and knowing what should be coming in this season, I know it's just like something that Roger said. It's like nothing is easy. Right.
And nothing is easy for them. And that last scene where right before they show them laying in bed, that storm, and I'm like, the storm is coming. I don't know what the storm is because I haven't read the books, but they just can't have peace.
Apparently not.
No.
Like, I guess that's
I'm looking forward
the consequences of you coming from the future back into the past. Yeah. Like you bring all of this, whatever with it. Like, I feel like in some ways it's like the time is trying to tell them you're not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Go home.
I didn't think about that.
Go home. Like you are an anomaly. You are disturbing the force. You have to go back home. That's why all these bad things keep happening to you. But Claire's not leaving without Jamie. No, we already know that she's done that once. She lived that life without him. And now that she's back, she's like, not doing it.
The only way for her to leave is if he dies. She will leave if he dies.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
That will be the only way. That's the only way.
Which I'm not ready to read any of that.
No. And for me, their perfect ending would be like the Notebook perfect ending where they just die old together in bed. That would be nice. But that's not going to happen.
I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen.
That's not going to happen in this world. So it would be nice.
Yeah. Because I mean, that scene last season where Jamie almost died. When I tell you I was coming undone, and in the books is worse. I'm sitting, he can't die. He can't die. We have more books. He can't. So I knew he wasn't going to die. But still, the fact that he got that close, and not ready for it.
But I am excited.
Yay, I'm glad.
I am.
I'm glad, and I'm glad you're going to be joining me for these talks.
Yes.
So let me ask you, is Anthony, and I know Anthony is sitting to the side listening to this just like you do with our podcast, is he going to be watching it with you?
Yes.
Okay. So it'll be interesting
because
to
I make him watch it with me. And sometimes he does it and I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, wait a second. You have to see this scene right here. Let me tell you what happened this episode. He's like, oh, okay. It's like I have to share with someone. So I'm glad that we're doing this podcast because I don't have like even my work friends or regular friends. I think I have one person who's watching it, but they're still on season 4.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it gets weird because Outlander, I feel like, is one of the best shows out there on TV. And it's kind of like the way I used to be with Supernatural. Like Supernatural was one of the best shows nobody talked about in the early seasons. Like I would mention the show and people would be like, what's that? I'm like, how do you not know what this show is? I'm the same way with Outlander. Like, especially once I got into it, oh, that was it. And I'm going to tell you a funny thing. So we were talking last night, my oldest daughter and I, Michele, who you've taught. We were sitting watching YouTube videos, and it was one of these YouTubers that does, she reviews like different things on social media. So her video was about horrible dating app, encounters. So she's listing all of these things, all of these posts that people have posted about dating app encounters. And I'm sitting there looking like, this is horrible. Like I've always said, I would never, ever, ever use a dating app. I was like, because who wants to deal with guys who think like this? And she said, and it was so funny, she said, this is why I'm still single. She said, because I just have it in my mind. She said, if I can't find a real Jamie out there, and I just bust out laughing. I said, do you mean Jamie? She said, if I can't find a man who's going to love me like James Alexander, Malcolm McKenzie Fraser, I don't want it. She was like, that show, he has ruined that for me.
Yes.
He has ruined dating for me. I just fell out laughing because I was like,
you're right. She should wait for that. Right. I'm happy to say I have that person right here next to me. I mean, I have to say that though. But yes, I do have that person next to me. But right, you wait for that, Jamie.
Yeah, you do, because and you think he's great in the show. He's even better in the books. And I mean, yes, there are some problematic things that we've seen with Jamie throughout the years because he is a man of the 1700s.
Yes.
So he does have some of those, mindsets and thoughts that we've seen, like the whole spanking Claire.
I was thinking
when she didn't, when she didn't obey him and that sort of thing. But as he's been with her longer, his mindset has changed and he's become more of a forward-thinking man, as opposed to the people in the 1700s, like, oh, okay, your wife doesn't listen to you. You're supposed to beat her and you're supposed to do this and you're supposed to do that. But overall, the romanticism from this character, yes, she writes it in the books. And it's like, I really read those, like, I can't believe they actually found a way to put that on the screen and get somebody who embodies that character so perfectly. Because when there are a lot of people who, when they read the story and they look at the TV show or they look at the movie, they always say that when they read the books, they have their own version of the character in their minds. So even when they see it on screen, that person doesn't translate to who they see in the books. I cannot read any of the Outlander books without Sam Heughan being my Jamie. He just absolutely is, even more so than any of the other characters. Like, yeah, I can look and say, okay, yeah, Claire, Brianna and Roger, they all fit very closely. Like the actors portray, they do a good portrayal of those characters. But like Sam Heughan as Jamie is like, that's one of the casting decisions that I'm like, absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. He gets it all. He gets the good parts of him. He gets the bad parts of him. He gets the emotion. He gets the anger. Like he encompasses the whole thing. So
it's great.
Yeah, it is.
So tell her, yes, please wait. Please wait.
Yeah.
Until you find a Jamie.
I was cracking up when she said it because I was not thinking her, like she watches the show with me, but she's not like as into it as I am. But she loves the show. She loves the characters. So when I heard her say that, it just threw me off because I was like, wait, are you talking about Jamie Fraser? She was like, absolutely. Okay. You know, at least you have standards. And that's what she said. She said, I have standards now. I'm not lowering them for anybody. And she told me about an encounter she had with somebody on a dating app. And she was like, yeah, no, not doing that anymore. She was like, this is my standard. If you can't meet these standards, I have no time for you. Okay. So, yeah.
And we all need to have standards. Side note, ladies, please have standards.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
And high expectations.
Right. That's a whole other show.
Yeah.
That is a whole other show. Oh, goodness. But yeah, so I am looking forward to covering Outlander. I'm so glad we'll be able to talk about it. This was the longest, I swear, the longest. I don't think I've had another show where, that I like that a hiatus has been that long.
No.
I don't think so.
COVID.
Let me tell you, COVID screwed up so much, and it still is. But
yes, because it also changes how they're filming things and characters. With other characters, you're not gonna have large group settings. Some characters don't want to be with other characters. Then you have actors and actresses who are not abiding by whatever rules the studio has, and then they don't have the job anymore. So then
luckily we have not had that on this set.
Yes,
because I have heard of other sets where that has happened, or because of the filming restrictions. Certain actors can't get to a certain place to film. I mean, that happened with us with the Discovery of Witches, with one of the major characters being recast because of COVID protocols. He couldn't leave his country to go film, because this was still in the thick of when things were really, really bad. So thankfully, we haven't really had that much of that on this set. I haven't heard about anybody leaving or anybody having any issues. We haven't had any anti-vaxxers that has been, made known. I think
be hard to recast. Well, first of all, we can't recast Jamie.
Absolutely not.
Claire. It just will be hard to recast. I just couldn't see anyone else. Now when I read the books, I'm going to be imagining the people on the show.
Yeah. Because they have really good chemistry too.
They do.
You can't just get that with anybody. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the videotape of Sam and Katrina's chemistry read when they were auditioning for the parts.
Yes, I watched those.
It's one of those. It's kind of like you said earlier. You feel like, okay, I'm not supposed to be in this room. Like there are people who really shipped them in real life. Like they would make a perfect couple. I was one of those people until I found out she was dating and engaged. I was like, okay, I won't do that anymore. But if it I could totally have seen that happen. Like their chemistry is ridiculous. But that's one of the reasons why the show is so good too, because you can feel that on the screen with not only them, but also the way that they interact with Brianna and with Roger and everyone else. Like they have a really good, whoever does the casting, they do an excellent job. Excellent. Even going all the way back to season 1. Like I miss the season 1 cast. Like I really want to see Dougal and Rupert and Angus. I miss them. Like we can't bring them back from the dead or go to those kind of flashbacks. I miss those characters. I miss those characters, especially Rupert and Angus. I miss them so much. But yeah, they do a really good job with the casting and the chemistry between the cast. So I'm looking forward to it.
But
7 days.
7 days, March 6th.
Yep.
Are you going to stay up really, really late and watch it in the middle of the night?
See, I probably, because that's also, Sundays is also Walking Dead day for me. So if I'm not staying up late, then I'll probably March 6th. You know what? Yes, I will be watching it early because March 6th is actually a full Walking Dead day for me, because I will be in Sonoya doing like one of the tours. And Casey and I are doing dinner at Nick and Norman's, and we're doing the viewing party. And, because they're at the tail end of filming the series. So they should be done with filming the series completely at the end of next month. So yeah, I will be watching that very early to get it out my system, because I'm like, I'm chomping at the bit for Outlander. Like, I think this week I'm going to go back and rewatch, the previous season, just to kind of refresh my memory. I'll probably not watch the Claire episode just because of how hard that was, but I may also watch it just because I need to see that whole scene where Jamie says, kill them all.
Kill them all.
Like, that was such a powerful scene. And for Fergus and Roger to also, like, they've never really killed anybody. Like, Roger had never killed anybody. I don't think Fergus had either. I think Fergus hadn't either.
No,
I don't think so. I don't think so. So the fact that they got pulled into that and they were like, okay, yeah, this is what we're doing. Okay, this is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. It's just, like I said, it's one of those powerful scenes. So yeah, I think I'm going to do a rewatch of the season. And then I probably will stay up Saturday night, like peeling my eyes open, trying to wait until it hits. Hopefully it hits at midnight, but knowing the way that they've been doing things, it'll probably be 3 a.m. That way it releases simultaneously on the East Coast and the West Coast. So yeah, Saturday will probably be a late night for me. Yeah.
And see, it's a party weekend because it's my mom's birthday, so we won't be here. Oh. And I need to have my time to watch it. So pretty much I'm not going to get to watch it until Sunday night, where everyone is in bed and I can sit in the dark and watch it.
That's okay, because that means that we'll get to talk about it probably Monday.
Right. I'm going to rewatch season 5 again. I actually rewatched the last episode today, not knowing that is the Claire episode. So when it was starting, and I'm like, okay, she was walking into her home, and I'm thinking, wait a second, I thought this was in the middle of the season. No. So I've just watched that episode.
Okay.
So I'm going to
rewatch. So you don't need to rewatch it again.
I don't need to rewatch it. No. But I'm going to rewatch the other episodes leading up to that.
That's just like going back to season 1, season 2, like the jail episodes with Black Jack Randall and Jamie. Yeah. Like, yes, I think I watched those a few times. And then after that, I was like, yeah, I don't need to watch these seasons ever, those episodes ever again. It's just, like you said, you feel like you're right there in the room. And the way, again,
the acting was fantastic. It was fantastic.
Brilliant. I don't understand how Sam Heughan has never been nominated, much less won an award for his role on Outlander. Travesty. It's horrible. Horrible. But that's a whole other conversation.
So how many times have you rewatched Outlander? Season 1 to current.
Seasons 1 and 2, I know I've probably watched maybe about 7 or 8 times each.
Okay.
Season 3, probably 4, and then seasons 4 and 5, I've only watched those. Like, I think season 4 I may have watched maybe twice, and then season 5 I may have watched that one twice too, because I did a rewatch last summer. Okay. Because I was like, God, we gotta wait another year. Okay, let me watch it. So yeah, I usually do, like, what I usually do with shows that have multiple seasons. Before the new season starts, I usually binge watch all the seasons before it. And then TV just decided to get really good and put all of these new and absolutely great shows. So I haven't done something like that in years. Like I used to do it with The Walking Dead. I used to sit there and binge watch all the seasons up until the new season, but we're in season 11 now. I don't have the time
to go back
to watch seasons 1 through 10, but I have been watching them. Like, I started last summer. I started with season 1, and I kind of got up to like season 5. And then I'll just watch clips every once in a while on YouTube if I'm feeling in the mood. So there are times when I'm just like, okay, I don't have time to watch a full season. Let me go watch some Outlander clips. So I'll watch like some of the really good clips, like Claire's reunion with Jamie when she sees Fergus for the first time after she comes back. Her reunion with Brianna after Brianna has met Jamie for the first time. I'll watch some of those scenes. If I'm in a really pensive mood or I really want to be sad, I'll go and watch the clip for Faith when Claire's coming back from the hospital after she miscarries and Fergus is helping her out the carriage. And I don't know, something about those clips, even as sad as they are, they give me comfort because of how well acted they are. And you just feel all of the emotion in it. So I do that every once in a while. I'll be like, okay, I don't know why I feel like making myself cry at 4:30 in the morning, but here I am.
Let me watch that scene. I've done season 1 through 4 times.
Okay.
And actually season 5 probably twice.
Okay.
Because when it came out, and then I'll rewatch the episodes. So I will go back and rewatch everything. So just season 5 just twice.
Okay.
So that's why I'm like, I don't remember much. I just remember the key things. And then sometimes I'll just watch a Watch Mojo of the top 10.
Oh, yeah. I do that too.
Or find someone who just takes all the nice scenes of Jamie and Claire to some background music, and I'll just watch those too.
Yes, I do that too. Yes. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to the new season. I really I need to see how they're going to do what they're going to do, especially the whole Christy storyline. Because that kind of, I won't say it drags on. It's not that it drags on, but that storyline is so complicated with what happens with those characters and how they tie into Jamie and Claire that, like I said, I feel like it needs to go into the next season because of how extensive it is. Now, they may find a way to wrap it up in the 7 episodes. I really hope they don't, because that's one of those storylines I feel deserves to be delved into very deeply. Because like I said, they call the Christies cause some chaos. And then there are things that happen as a result of this Christie storyline that is chaos for other characters on the ridge. And it's just, yeah, I hope they do that properly, but I've never seen anything on this show where I'm like, oh, they didn't do that right.
Right. I think they have done everything from listening to others who have read the book, especially going to those panels. It seems like everything has been done properly. So if we continue on this path, then they will have a way of putting it on screen that makes sense and is concise, but still get all the drama that you was reading.
I can't wait till we get to those episodes and I hear your reaction, because that's going to be one of those. I think you're going to be messaging me like, oh my God, what did I just watch? Like, what just happened? Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Good.
It's going to be interesting. So, so we're going to be talking about Outlander starting next week. So continue to watch this space. And I'm glad Michele is going to be joining us. This is going to be fun. So for now, that's it for our show. You can find us online at www.fandomhybrid.com. We are on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Fandom Hybrid. You can watch our videos on YouTube and listen to us on all major podcast streaming platforms. Thanks for listening. We hope you join the conversation next time.